Okay, so for recording the certificate 3 components of the practical demonstration, we'll set up the camera on a tripod like this. Might need a camera operator so that you can capture all of the movements around when we get to the circuit. Got our standard field layout that you'll be familiar with from the sheet. We also need to make sure that your identity is you, so holding up a copy of your driver's license. Perfect example. We get that recognition to make sure it's you doing the competencies. Other than that, someone operating that camera just to make sure we're capturing all of the elements will be great. So we'll kick off. Ben's going to do some demo.
Excellent. So your first manoeuvre will be take off and hover for 10 seconds, followed by landing.
Okay, second manoeuvre is airborne out to the distant cone, so it's going to be 30 metres out. Hover there and then return back, all in normal orientation, so it's always with the aircraft facing away from you. These are all in GPS mode at the moment, except when later on we go to non-GPS mode. Straight out to that final cone and then returning directly back to the start point and down for a landing. The next manoeuvre is that same manoeuvre again, but in AVI mode. So we're going to become airborne. Once you're airborne and stable, we're going to flick the selector switch to AVI mode. The aircraft's lights will flash yellow at the back. We'll confirm AVI mode, and we do exactly that same manoeuvre again. Out, back, and a landing in AVI mode for this one.
Take off.
The aircraft's in AVI mode now, and we're accounting for the wind during the manoeuvre. Select back to GPS mode so that we don't have any ongoing accidents from there. The next manoeuvre is a pirouette, so it's airborne, hover over the nearest cone, switch to AVI mode. We'll do a 90-degree turn to the left and then a 180-degree turn to the right, followed by a 90-degree turn to the left, back to normal orientation with an AVI landing off the back of this one.
Switching to AVI.
And returning back for a landing now in AVI mode. selecting GPS mode again so that we know we've got a starting point. The next step is figure 8. So we're going to become airborne, set ourselves up halfway between the 5 metre spaced cones here and complete a uniform figure 8 around those cones with the cones as a centre point for our turns.
Take off.
Turns should be uniform and coordinated. It's GPS mode, so it shouldn't be too much of a hassle to keep that camera facing forwards the entire time. Nice even turns around those cones. Back to the start position. Now we're going to turn around and face the camera in, so nose in orientation, and complete the same manoeuvre. Again, flying forward facing throughout the whole manoeuvre, evenly spaced around the cones, coming back through the centre and evenly spaced for the final 360 degrees. After that one's completed, back to normal orientation for a landing back on the starting point. Okay, the next manoeuvre is a circuit. We might have to move the camera around for this one, have an operator. So the circuit, we're using our liner cones. We're going to become airborne, take off, left-hand circuit to start with, and then after we've done that, we'll repeat it in a right-hand circuit. There's a circuit video attached in your Microsoft Teams classroom, so you can see a real detailed demonstration of that one. So between the left-hand cone and the far right cone, the aircraft is flying level as if it's going along a runway, in line with the cones. Once we get to the end of the runway, we commence a climb, 45 degrees climb angle, up to a circuit height of about 2 metres. From that point, we make our left-hand circuit, always moving forwards throughout the whole manoeuvre, constant speed and balanced turns. As we come past the centre line of cones here, we should be able to look directly across the aircraft and see that the landing gear are parallel to the downwind track, and then make any corrections we need to at that point. Continuing downwind, aligning with our final cone on the left hand side here for our turn on the base, and fly our base leg, line ourselves up with final, and we come down to that first cone at our hover height, nice and uniformly coming down straight to that first cone. That's the finish of our left-hand circuit. Now we'll transition across to the other end of the runway and fly a right-hand circuit. Exactly the same process again, starting hover height in line with the runway, nice even speed throughout the whole manoeuvre. End of the runway, climbing at 45-degree angle of angle of climb up to our circuit height. Moving forwards through that right hand turn, fly our crosswind leg, a turn at the right distance onto downwind, cross check of the aircraft direction at that point. Anticipate our turn onto base. Line up with final, and then a constant even descent to our start position. So nice and uniform down to end up at our green cone there. That's the finish of our right hand circuit. We return back for a land on the helipad to finish. Okay, the next manoeuvre is a vertical rectangle. We're going to become airborne over the green cone, up 5 metres, left 5 metres, down and back to the start point, all in normal orientation in GPS mode. Is a nose-in orientation in GPS mode. We're going to go out to the far cone, fly towards us, nose-in, and then at that point when we hit our green cone here, or the near cone, we're going to oscillate firstly to the left, all the way to the left-hand cone, then all the way to the right-hand cone and back to the centre for a nose-in landing. This is the one exception where we'll do a nose-in landing in this manoeuvre. Orientate the aircraft to the nose-in orientation. Now we're flying back towards us as the pilots. GPS mode for this manoeuvre. Once we get to that green cone, we'll move the aircraft to the left, all the way to the left-hand cone. As soon as we get there, we oscillate back to the far right cone. And back to the green cone in the centre and a nose-in landing back at the landing pad. make sure we put the aircraft back into normal orientation for our next takeoff. It's really important that throughout all of our manoeuvres we always take off and land in normal orientation with the exception of that last manoeuvre. The next move is a GPS failure simulation. We're going to bring the aircraft back around the outside of our set of cones, at least 5 metres away from all of the cones, from a point about 80 metres away, thereabouts. So we're going to go a fair way away, simulate a GPS failure by selecting AVI mode, and then manoeuvre the aircraft back using GPS failure checklist, and then bringing the aircraft back around and landing on the pad again. Really important to consider the wind in this one. It's a really big consideration to know what the wind is beforehand. So we take off in GPS mode first, and then we'll go to AVI mode once we're out at a distance. While we do this manoeuvre, make sure you keep your finger on the GPS selector switch at all times. If it gets out of hand, we want to see that switch flicked straight back across and maintain safety. Okay, we've got the aircraft out at a distance there. We're going to use our selector to go to GPS mode, to AVI mode, and then with the aircraft in normal orientation, we'll finish this manoeuvre by bringing the aircraft back home. We're avoiding the area of all of our cones, assuming that they're obstacles, and we're manoeuvring around them. Now we keep a nice controlled pace here. A walking pace is a good option. We definitely don't want to see rapid manoeuvres here. This is a simulation of what you would do in an emergency, and having good control is very important. Again, landing in normal orientation for this manoeuvre to make sure that we've got our controls in the correct sense. Switching back to AVI mode, GPS mode for our next manoeuvre. So for this one, it's an automated return to home. So we're going to get the aircraft airborne and head away again, at least 30 metres away, because we want the full return to home option to take place. Pushing and holding the return to home button. It's initiated. The aircraft turns to face the home point, climbs to its predetermined return to home line. Tracks directly above the return to home point. And then we'll note the aircraft descending while we maintain visual line of sight with it. We still have the ability to override direction or override the descent to make sure that it's a nice, controlled, safe return to home. It's automatically descending now back to the home point. We can adjust a little as needed to make sure that we get a nice landing. Okay, that's the end of our flight test. Remember, you need to make sure you secure your aircraft, turn that one off, check your flight time, make sure you've got that logged and submit that back to us as well. And that's the sequence for demonstrating competence for the practical components of the Certificate 3 units of competency. Thanks, Ben.